What's up, Street T family? Once again, we are back. This time is going to be part 4, systemic injustice. Now, I know a lot of you are used to hearing, systematic racism, but one of the things that I want to clarify is that, systematic means institutions that are being affected, by the situation. So, systematic racism, has been affecting the African American community for some time. We all understand this. This is, common knowledge. Everyone talks about it. And I just want to, touch upon some of the things in the paper that really I feel like was, most important. Because it's a lot of, as usual, it's a lot of information. There's, I always like to give you guys a lot of links. If you want to go ahead and dive in deeper, you're welcome to do that. The information is always available for you to be able to do that. And I always want to make sure that you guys have, a lot of backup, when you start discussing these types of things, especially with, family members and friends, if you want to share the knowledge and things like that. So it's important that we always keep it factual. For those particular reasons. Now, so systematic injustice, it affects our laws, institutions, schools, our justice system, media, culture, and everyday interactions. This is something that has been a topic of discussion for some time now. Two things that I want to discuss when it comes to this situation, which is racial complicity and racial complacency. Now, out of my paper, I want to read you exactly what I wrote because I feel like that's very important. I think that people are getting very confused about what this actually means and how it affects, the relationships that you have with people that are African American, social interactions at jobs, things of that nature. And I think that it's important to understand. So, racial complicity is to consciously or unconsciously support, contribute, or benefit from racism or racist systems. Okay? So you don't have to consciously do it to be complicit. You know what I mean? This is one of the reasons why language of racism is so important for the masses and things like that. And I think that was one of the things that when people ask me, why did you decide to do this? And I have to always tell them, like, listen, it's because a lot of people are complicit and they don't realize it. This has been going on for so long that they don't understand the things that are being affected, the way that things are happening, and also I don't mean, and I don't want to be rude when I say this, but I don't feel like I can sugarcoat this. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, I think that some people don't do enough critical thinking when it comes to this topic because they immediately say racism doesn't exist, slavery is abolished, forget about it. Why are we talking about all these different things? It's just crazy to me how, if you were to step in a pile of, manure, for lack of a better word, and you wiped your shoe off, when you got home, you definitely want to clean that shoe more thoroughly. You probably wipe it off just so that you can get to go where you're going and doing what you're doing without looking like a fool and funking up whatever room you walk into. But I'm sure that when you get home, you want to clean it up thoroughly. And this is what we're doing. This is the more thorough look. You know what I mean? I do this for people to have their minds opened up, for them to really evaluate themselves and look at the situations, and also to bring a lot of, awareness to the African American community. A lot of things that we talk about is very political. A lot of things that we talk about are, affects our society, affects our relationship with people that we care about, probably even known for a long time. This is not just something that we're doing just because, we want to have nice conversations and, talk about sweet things and, we just want to kumbaya ourselves to death. No, these are hard conversations. These are serious situations that are happening and affecting a lot of black people. Racial complacency. To support racism and racist systems by not challenging it. And I want to be real clear when I say this. All lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is a clear disregard for the conversation about protests against police brutality and racism. Let's unravel what was just said. Now, if you're complacent, we're not. Keep in mind that we're not calling you a cohort. We're not calling you a co-defendant. We're saying complicity and complacency, meaning you're okay with the way that things are happening. You understand why Black people are targeted. You know what I mean? In our next one, we're going to get to unfiltered noise. And I think that a lot of you are going to have to, you know what I mean, convict yourselves about that. You know, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So let's stick to what we're actually talking about. All lives matter. How can you say all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter? It makes no sense to me. You know what I mean? If you're a person that understands English, do you understand that we're talking about Black lives? We're not talking about white lives not mattering. We're talking about Black lives mattering. You know, it's like we keep having the same discussion and we just keep continuing on and, you know, going back and forth, and I don't understand how nobody's getting it. One of the things that I discussed in my paper, Professor Trish Rose identifies 5 social institutions that she believes is affecting the wealth gap. Because when you speak about systematic injustice, we're talking about a lot of different things here. We're not talking about one thing. We're talking about all the things that are affecting African Americans, why things are happening in our community the way that they're happening. Wealth is one of them. Housing is one of them. Media is one of them. Education is another. And criminal justice is another. Now, in this paper, I decided to focus on one aspect of this. Well, not really focus on one aspect so much as I wanted to zero in on something that I feel has not gotten enough attention. We all know about our criminal justice system. We know that Black men are, you know, going to be killed at a higher rate than white men by police. Now, we could sit back and forth and argue about that all we want to. I've heard people pull out stats. I've heard people say this, that, and a third, you know what I mean? And they'll say, no, it's more white people getting killed by men. Ooh, look at this number. Look at that number. Let me tell you something. We're going to address this right now. I didn't even get into this in my paper because I knew I was going to have my video blog, and I wanted to address this while I'm speaking to you guys. I want to put this in a way that you guys can truly understand what's going on. First of all, there is more Caucasian people living in the United States. Okay? So if you have a pie with 10 pieces in it, let's just say that represents the majority of the United States, which are white people, Euro, American, however you'd like to refer to them at this point. We got one pie over here that's representing our white community with 10 slices in it, okay? We got another pie over here representing our African American community, okay? Now, because we are smaller, then I'm going to make, you know what I mean, this pie cut in 5 instead of 10, okay? Because it's not as many Black people as white people. Can we all agree upon that? Let's move forward. Let's just say you decide you want to take 5 pieces of the white person's pie, the white people pie. The pie is representing white people, okay? Mind you, it's cut in 10, so you can imagine what these pieces look like, okay? Now, it's the same size pie. One side got 10 pieces, one side got 5. Let's go over here to the one that represents African American, and let's take 3 pieces of pie out of there. If you look at the 5 pieces of pie, the 3 pieces of pie that you took out of the pie that was representing white America, Euro-American people, and you put that side by side with the 3 pieces of pie that's representing African American people, you do not have to be a mathematician to know that those 3 pieces of pie is going to be a lot bigger than those 3 pieces of pie that's represented by the white people, Euro-American people. I don't even understand how this has been an argument for so long. It's like that. It's like they don't understand mathematics or ratio to ratio, and they continue to keep quoting these numbers that they know, or either they're choosing to be complicit by quoting them incorrectly, and the masses are, quoting them over and over again, and it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Okay, now that we have addressed that, I want to talk about redlining in the black community. Now, this was something that was supposed to be abolished. This was something that was supposed to have been done away with. Okay, there used to be where banks, places that would do home loans, they had these maps, these zones, and they would zone out, where the black communities was at to identify them. And those houses, or would of course, have lower value because of the neighborhoods that they were in. And this is how they kept us in neighborhoods that weren't so great away from neighborhoods that were better. You know what I mean? And not only that, that was another way for banks to know, hey, this is as a red zone. We don't want that. We don't want to, mess that up and put, give them home loans, and then they come into this neighborhood, and that's how they segregated. People say things like, quote unquote, oh, that's a white neighborhood over there. You don't want to live there. And this is the type of things that we have going on in society. Now, you can argue about slavery all you want to, but you and I both know this is going on right now. I want to read y'all, and this is why we've been doing so many updates to Street T, because we really want to be able to give y'all the information in a way where, y'all can be able to walk through it with us. Like, we can actually show you some of the things, examples, while we're actually talking. Excuse me, my eye was itching. And that's one of the things that we're going to be looking forward to in the future when we do these video blogs. We're very excited about all the things that we're going to be, instituting and bringing forth with you for Street T. We have some really good plans, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it a lot. One of the things I did show you guys was actually a map of Austin, Texas, and it actually shows how they would actually, outline them and, get rid of them, and, show you how the different neighborhoods were differentiated, and these are the things that banks went upon. The reason why we're talking about that is because when we talk about school, you got to understand, schools are paid for by property taxes, and they're paid for by the property taxes to the neighborhoods. So if, let's just say you live in a neighborhood that doesn't have, homeowners, these people are not homeowners, you're not going to have a lot of taxes going towards your school. You're not going to have a lot of curriculum, a lot of programs. Now, in this particular article, I did talk a lot about personal things. The reason why I did that was because I feel like sometimes when I talk to y'all, I got to get y'all to understand, like, you could be a person that says, this never affected me. I've never seen racism. You can do that because this is America. You can say whatever you want. It could be true, actually. But when you think about things, you got to dive a little bit deeper and say to yourself, if somebody went out and raped and robbed a stranger's mom, do you need somebody to come and rape and rob your mom for you to understand that's a horrible act and it should never happen? I just don't understand that reasoning either, the way that thinking leads you to feel like, well, it's not happening. So if you didn't ever experience it, that means that it didn't happen. It doesn't matter. People say systemic racism doesn't exist. The wealth gap doesn't exist. Racism doesn't exist. Racial profiling doesn't exist. I mean, it's like they're saying it just because they know that they can say it. Like, it's a free country. You can say that if you want to. That doesn't make it true. Denial doesn't make it true. Complicity doesn't make it true. And complacency doesn't make it true. And I'm absolutely sick of it. I want to move on. And I want to give y'all something. Several key factors exacerbate this vicious cycle of wealth and inequality. Black households, for example, have far less access to tax-advantaged forms of savings, due in part to a long history of employment discrimination and other discriminatory practices. Okay, a well-documented history of mortgage market discrimination means that blacks are significantly less likely to be homeowners than whites. Less likely. Why? We've all been here almost for the same amount of time. I mean, this is history. That's a fact. So if y'all feel like, well, oh, well, you were slaves then, you ain't slaves now. Why can't you just get a home? Why can't you just do, why can't you? Well, explain that to me. Because I got answers. When you walk into a bank and you're asking for a loan, they're asking for a co-signer, they're asking for credit. If you're working a minimum wage job, the chances of you being able to go out and save enough money to buy a home, I mean, I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm not going to tell anybody what they cannot do. We're talking about equality here. What's actually happening, people are walking into banks and getting loans, and they don't need all of that. You know what I mean? They don't have all of that. So how are they going to get these loans for homes? And also people are looking at them and being like, oh, well, they're black. We can't just do, I don't care what kind of work history they have. We're not going to give them, and they wanted in that neighborhood? No, we don't want to do that. So when you think about it like that, how you think about it is like a domino effect. If you're a young child, you're going to school. You're not going maybe to the best school. You know what I mean? You're living in a bad neighborhood. You know what I mean? What is the choices? I mean, for a black person to be successful without sports, I mean, the odds are definitely not in your favor. You're not coming from a family with money. You're not coming from a family with good credit. You're not coming from a family that owns houses or, that can be used as credit to co-sign things for you. This is not what's happening. Most people of color are working these low-end or minimum wage jobs. You know what I mean? And it's harder for us to close that wealth gap because we having problems getting home loans. It's harder for our schools to perform better when we don't have homeowners to pay those taxes to put into our schools. And I'm going to use myself as an example because I'm from New York. When I lived in New York, the schools that I went to, they didn't have football and basketball and, only really good schools, maybe even outside of the city, did that. We didn't have that. Like, I live in Pennsylvania, my children, from grade school, before you even go to grade, they can play pee-wee football. There's pee-wee baseball, there's basketball, there's band, there's, all these things to keep the kids in the school, to keep them interested in school. You got to understand, there's children that's going to school and their moms and dads are struggling so bad. They don't have adequate clothing. They don't have adequate, finances at home. So, school is like, it's stressful on top of everything else that they're dealing with. These parents are so stressed out trying to pay these bills and everything like that. They ain't got time to be sitting at home for 4 hours or 3 hours or 2 hours doing homework. And I'm not making excuses for nobody. I'm just trying to tell you, if this is what you're saying the American dream is about, work hard. Well, these parents is out here working hard. People of color are working harder. I don't want that to be misinterpreted as you can never have nothing because you're black. Because that's not true. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that it's an injustice. It's not equal. It's not the same. And people will say, it's almost like denial is the way to go. Like distract, denial. These words, these things that be said, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm going to repeat them to you because, of course, this is what this discussion is about. I've heard people say, well, I don't think that white privilege means, I mean, how can I be privileged because I'm white? How can I be privileged? What do you mean by that? I've never had money. I had to work a job. I had to do this. No, the point that I'm saying is that because you're white, you're privileged enough, people tend to trust you because you're white. People don't look at you and say, oh, well, I can't give her a job. I don't want to work with her. She's black. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going to happen. Is she going to play her music too loud on her way into work? And then when I come in the parking lot, her music is going to be playing? Well, I don't want that. I'd rather hire somebody else that doesn't have, maybe even as many credentials or as much references just because they're white. That's privilege. When white people decide that they want to march and protest, they go out there with guns and the cops don't pull out tear gas The cops don't pull out, sound bangs. You know what I'm saying? And what is the other non-lethal method? I mean, they're using tear gas. I'm using those sound bangs. You know what I mean? None of that is happening. I mean, I've literally seen them in, cops' face screaming and hollering. And that's the injustice that I'm talking about. Black people put on, go out and protest. We've been protesting for 3 months. You can expect to be tear gassed and, and whatever else, clubbed or whatever. If you got other people that see this protesters and they decide they're going to go out there and run them over. Let's go out there and shoot some of them. I mean, I've heard and seen reports over and over again of how the protesters, are continuously being attacked. And it's like, why is there so much injustice when it comes to black people? You know what I mean? Why does it feel like, we can't own homes? We can't be equal, and it's always like, people say, well, it's not that they don't want to be around black people. They want to always be ahead. They want to be in charge. They want to have that power, that white power. Let's call it what it is. They want to have the power to decide whether you have that job, you don't have the job based upon color. And so anybody else would agree with any of these things that's going on, or, not be working towards, getting rid of, laws that are standing in the way of making us more equal. Why would you be against that? Unless you are complicit or you're complacent, because you know what it does for you. It's a lot of things that's being discussed in here. There was a little, I put a little graph in here, just basically showing, a pattern that, and it says, if it's continued over time and with no major policy changes, it will take more than 20 years just to return the racial wealth gap that existed in 1998. Moreover, it would take more than 200 years for the median black wealth to equal median white wealth. 200 years. Leaving wealth inequality to market forces would likely create a massive gulf in economic opportunity and security by race. Isn't that what we're seeing today? Does that sound familiar to anyone? That said, shrinking the black-white wealth gap in a meaningful way will undoubtedly require large, targeted policy interventions. Large, targeted policy interventions. This graph on here shows, what is it showing? White households had greater wealth and income than black or African American households from 1989 to 2016, and they show it by race. And I think that this is some interesting information. I don't like to always get into the graphs and a lot of things that I'll show you on my papers, but I felt like on this particular subject it was very important to be specific about certain information. I want y'all to truly understand, when they're saying go out and vote, we're voting to keep ourselves afloat and voting for things, people that's going to move our movement and protect our interests. And that's important. Black people don't realize that when slaves became free, the most important thing to them was voting. And I think as a society, we need to figure out why that is. Why was voting so important to them? Why did they push for that so vehemently? Why were they willing to lose their lives just to be able to vote? Why did they go off to war when they knew they wasn't even citizens? It wouldn't be considered them, or took the chance whether or not they would be. And of course, we know how that played out. But why would they do that? Because they wanted to be homeowners. Because they wanted to have a vote. They wanted to have a say-so in who's governing them. Because they knew how important that would be towards their livelihood and their life on a daily basis. Not just, oh, I want to feel good today and this is great, I need you guys to go out there and vote. I need y'all to start really getting involved in politics, because this is very important to us as a community. You can feel like, oh, it's boring, I don't care, I don't want to talk about that, but you got to really understand why things are the way they are. Why these people keep getting away with the things they're getting away with, as far as even Breonna Taylor. I told y'all that was going to be a hard battle because of the laws in that state. Not only the laws that don't protect hate crimes, but the laws that protect police. We talked about this before. And y'all got to understand that. And there's politicians, lobbyists that's putting all this stuff in place. There was an article that was written. It was said the future of the U.S. public school revenue from the property tax. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and read you all the data from here, but I really, truly, and I implore y'all to really take some time and look at this information. It's very, very important. It's very positive. It talks about how it's affected, public schools, some of the concerns that have been expressed about it. And, I just want to real quick go through this domino effect. You're young, you're poor, you're going to this school that doesn't have the best curriculum. You're not living in the best neighborhood. You may or may not go graduate from that school. You may not even see the importance of school because school has, is not funded well enough for you to even understand, all the things that should be happening. I know at the high school around here, they offer them college classes in high school. So, they have the children thinking about college. If you're going to high school, and you guys are having substitute teachers half the time because they can't afford to keep teachers on payroll, I'm sure that you're going to find that the children are having a hard time learning. Nothing is consistent. A lot of schools are battling, because they don't have the appropriate funding in neighborhoods. And I don't tell y'all this because I feel like I'm right. I implore you, do the homework. Do your homework on where you live. Take this information I'm giving you and apply it to your own personal situation. And come back and tell me what you find. Just recently, our president decided to speak out about such a thing. And I want to read that to you, too. This was dated July 29th, 2020. Your housing prices will go up based on the market and crime will go down. I have rescinded the Obama-Biden AFFH rule. Enjoy. That was at 12:19 p.m. At 12:19 again, he had two tweets. The other one was, he tweeted, this is what he does. I am happy to inform all of the people living their suburban lifestyle dream that you will no longer be bothered or financially hurt by having low-income housing built in your neighborhood. It's 2020. The whole point behind language of racism is three things. We want to bring knowledge. We want to show y'all how things are affecting us that have been happening for a long time and how they've just changed faces. We also want to bring awareness to politics and make it easier for you guys to understand a lot of things that are going on because we're doing the work for you. We understand that you're busy. This is what we do, what we love. So we want to do it for you. And of course, always give you the opportunity to go out and double check it, fact check it. Make sure that it's true. Even apply it towards everyday life so that you understand what's going on and what we're actually talking about. It's sad that this is the way that things are going right now. The last thing that I said in my paper was talking about how black people are still working hard. We're still trying to be homeowners, still taking care of our children. I hope that we'll have more time to discuss more of this, when you guys, dig in and take a look at it. I always like to do a little video blog of everything, just touch upon it, so that we can talk about things. So we talked about housing, we talked about the criminal justice, we talked about the education, we talked about the wealth. Let's talk about the media. Ever since this has started, since George Floyd got killed, people have been, companies, TV programs, syrup, Aunt Your Mama, they changing their logos, everyone's jumping on board to try to show support and solidarity with the black community, which is amazing. I'm not, talking bad or down on anybody about that. We welcome you, especially to Street Tea. We are not here just for black people. We operate in solidarity with the community as far as those that are with us and are willing to see us, do better and move forward our platform. Eventually, like I said before, we will be having things that will be moving forward, asking to move forward our agenda to be able to back, not politicians, lobbyists that are lobbying for laws that will help protect us and, make things better for the African American community. So that's one of the goals of Street Tea. If you didn't know, now you know. We want to make things better, and we want to do that by keeping ourselves authentic, authentic journalism, authentic, fact checking and information that we're putting out there. We want to make sure that you guys are getting it. Maybe not raw, we can't give it to you raw, but we will give it to you in a way that you'll be able to understand, because some platforms don't, some information is, very touchy. And that's the reason why we have our closed Facebook. We also have our Discord chat. I think you guys should really get involved with the Discord. I think that'll be really amazing for a lot of you to be able to open up and feel comfortable to say the things that you say or the way that you feel. I think that'll be really amazing. So I am going to be putting out the links for that in our Facebook group, because I don't want anybody in there that's not a part of Street Tea. If you're going to be signing up for our Patreon account, we are on www.patreon.com/Street Tea. You can do that now for benefits. If you want to, keep Street Tea here, you can always sign up for our Patreon account and donate $5 a month to do so. Any of our people out there that you want to do more, we'll have more for you guys sooner than later. We will be getting merchandise. We will be getting our e-commerce store up, so that you guys will be able to interact with us more, and we'll have more ways to interact with you and give out, free stuff, as well as we continue to go on and we continue to grow, we want to make sure that you guys are, growing with us, and as well as, feeling comfortable to be able to voice that unfiltered voice that you have. We want to give you that opportunity to do that as well. It's not about always me talking to you guys. I want to hear what you have to say as well. So I just wanted to stay on point, and I just really hope that you guys take a look at this information. It's really, really important that we really begin to take a look at the way that the wealth gap is affecting us. The systematic injustice is not just one thing. And I believe that the media has played their part as well. Because if you look at the show Cops, it's all about black people. 90% of it is going to be black people going to jail. This is entertainment. For white America, Euro Americans, this is entertainment for them. Why is the white people not getting arrested on Cops all day long? 48 hours, same thing. It's almost like, let me show you all these black people that's committing crimes and committing murders. This is why when I see protesters, they keep saying that they're criminals. You can't say that all the protesters are criminals. Protesters are not criminals. Excuse me. They're out there protesting. So if all the protesters were criminals, if we really took that in this context and said all the protesters are criminals, I would suspect that, a lot more criminality would be going on, and not just, a couple of buildings or a couple of cars. These are hundreds and hundreds of people. If they were all out there committing crimes, how would you ever be able to control them? I think the situation would be a lot worse than what it is right now. So I think that's a really big exaggeration. When you decide to look at the protesters, I don't agree with that at all. And I want to read y'all something that I just seen recently. Judging a demonstration by its most violent participants, but not judging the police force by its most violent cops, is the language of the oppressor. And I agree with that. I'm going to give it to y'all again slower. Judging a demonstration by its most violent participants, but not judging a police force by its most violent cops, is the language of the oppressor. So, excuse me, there are some people that's going out there, they're looting, they're putting things on fire. That is not the gist of the protest. Don't forget to hear the protesters, because of several people that are violently being participants. If you want me to believe that there's good cops out there, you got to be fair. You got to believe that there's protesters out there that's out there just really trying to see change. They're out there for change. And attacking them and calling them criminals is just craziness to me. It's a very general comment, and it's unfair, and it doesn't respect our right, First Amendment right, to be able, any Americans, not ours as black people, any Americans' right to have their First Amendment and speak up when they feel like something is not right, or speak up about something that they feel is right. The point is that they have the right to speak. Let the protesters speak. It's unfair that they're being painted by the media as villains, criminals, looters, rioters. You know? So, now that we've touched upon all 5 of those, I welcome you guys to take a look at the article. I hope that you guys enjoy it. As always, you know, I enjoy being able to talk with you guys and, you know, give them information, a little bit of insight on what I'll be writing about and how I actually feel about it. I feel like I think that we're going to do the watch party from now on, you know, because I really like that aspect of it. But you guys, I thank you so much for all your support. We are 200 strong now on Instagram. We are 200 strong on Facebook. So we're moving along. We're moving along. And I appreciate all you guys. I really do. And I implore you, invite your friends. Follow us on Twitter. We're still trying to grow our Twitter following. We have some really interesting stuff. Each platform is different. Different because, you know, each platform moves differently. Like, you know, there's going to be information that won't be on another platform because, you know, depending on how it's being shared or we gather the information, we all want to make them all unique within itself. So it's good for you to follow us on all of them. If you have Twitter, you have Instagram, you have YouTube, subscribe to us. You know, we're going to put the video blogs up there. We're also going to give you some more stuff to look at. We think it's, you know, good for you guys to be able to interact with us on several different subjects because, you know, we're interested in several different subjects. We just happen to, you know, have Street Tea as our main course in our bodies of work, you know, and we always want to get that to y'all. So, part 4, systemic injustice. All right? I hope you guys enjoy it. It was my pleasure to write it for you. And as always, be blessed and be the blessing. Y'all take care. All right?